Welcome back to the Destiny Global Facebook page, where we're here each and every week sharing a success tip with you. Today, I'm going to share with you a tip that has been incredibly powerful in my own life, and I can't tell you how often times I tell myself this little piece of advice. This has helped save me money, helped me grow my income, and prevent costly mistakes. Most importantly, it's helped keep me motivated and prevent procrastination. You're going to love this one because it's so simple that you can start applying it tomorrow. And I'm going to share with you about 3 different examples of where I've seen people need to apply this technique, and I'm going to share the outcome with you of each of those examples. My name is Jackie O'Quinn. If I didn't already say that, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years. I first started working from home with a small business back when I was 23. Today I'm 42, so it's been almost 20 years now. In that time period, I've made some mistakes and I've made some money, and I can tell you that it's much more fun to have a profitable business than it is struggling making mistakes. So this success tip is all about helping you prevent costly mistakes. Okay, I'm also going to share a tip with you here in a moment that you're going to love as well, that's kind of expanding on this one tip. So the main success tip is this: don't overthink things. And I'll give you a perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about. I had a friend who one time, she owned a catering business and she was baking cakes basically. She would take orders from people that she knew, companies have special event, and she would bake these cakes. Now, most of the time she was baking, 1 or 2 cakes at a time, which was awesome. But then her business started picking up, and all of a sudden she was getting more orders and she felt like she was in the kitchen all the time. And she was looking to grow her business, but she didn't know if she should buy a second stove. But then it was, do I have the money for the second stove? Is my business going to keep doing well? Is it going to justify the cost for an additional stove? And then I might have to rewire some things in my house, or I might have to remodel my kitchen to put in a second stove or a double oven, for example. And I was talking to her and I said, let me ask you a question. How busy are you? Like, do you need that extra space in order to cook? Do you need that every week? And she said, no, maybe once every 4 to 5 weeks, I'll get that busy. And I said, what if instead of worrying about the expense of the stove, instead of trying to think about remodeling your kitchen, for the time being, what if there was a better solution? And I asked her, do you know of anyone who can bake cakes as good or pretty close to as good as you can? She said, yeah, my sister and my cousin. My cousin can actually bake better than I can. And I said, what if you were able to get your sister or your cousin to bake cakes for you? And what you could do is you could simply let them know that you would split the profit of the cake. So that way you would still make money. You didn't have to have them available all the time. They weren't cooking with you all the time, just whenever you need them every few weeks when you got busy. And you could make profit, but you didn't have to put out any of the actual effort or spend any of the time actually baking the cake. They didn't have to worry about getting the customers and finding the clients. You took care of, they didn't have to deliver any cakes. You did all that for them. They just made half the profit. You made half the profit. And it was a perfect solution for her, and it worked out great and allowed her to be able to save up some money or to wait until she was in a position where she thought she was busy enough to be able to get that second oven and to start expanding her very small business. I'll give you another example of me when I overthought early on in my business. So I keep it simple, stupid. KISS, K-I-S-S. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't overthink. So there was a time in my business when things were going really, really well. By my second year, I broke 6 figures in business. I was in my mid-20s, 6 figures in profit, by the way. In my mid-20s, things were going really, really well. I got to a position where I was ready to start investing in real estate. But I was concerned because I didn't know anything about my rental market or, what home prices were, what areas of the market was more affordable or less affordable, what areas was more desirable to rent in. I didn't know any of that. I didn't have a real estate agent or anything that I was working with. I had none of that. So I spent a lot of time, and I knew I wasn't quite ready to invest, but I told myself I wanted to be prepared. So I spent a lot of time looking at the market, going to see what was for sale, contacting real estate agents, having them show me properties, just trying to get a feel for who I might want to work with. And I ended up eventually purchasing a property, but I went back and looked at all the time. Like I spent the better part of year and a half probably, just doing all this research trying to learn. And I missed some business appointments, and I know that doing that research did take time away from my business, and I justified it because I thought I need to know this. If I'm going to invest, I need to know these things. I don't want to make a mistake. That's what I kept telling myself. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to pay too much for a property. But what I realized when I closed on that first property and I went back and looked at how much time it took, because real estate can be very intimidating till you do it for the first time, just like starting a business can be really intimidating. And when we get intimidated is when we start overthinking. In our minds, we think that we're preparing. And so what I ended up doing was I realized, thinking back, I was like, I was worried about overpaying for properties. But if I would have just put that time on my business and waited till I did the research when I had the money ready to invest, because then I would have bought something a lot quicker and saved myself probably 90% of the time I spent looking and hunting, trying to familiarize myself with the market. If I would have just focused on my business, I probably could have produced at minimum an additional $20 or $30 or $40,000 in my business. That would have far and away exceeded anything that I could have overpaid for a residential property at the time. Again, I was overthinking it, and it ended up costing me time and cost me far more money than had I made a bad buy in real estate. I'll share with you an example that I shared this past week or I guess 2 weeks ago at First Steps to Success. First Steps to Success, I did a whole section talking about multiple streams of income. And I talked about how oftentimes people overthink. People want to make multiple streams of income. They want to make more money. And they're thinking, maybe I want to start a business, but I don't know what to do. What kind of product can I create? What can I sell? What do I have that my customers want? And all too often, I find that people just simply overthink this thing. And so we're doing an entire masterclass teaching how to get started with a brand new income stream, and then how to scale that one income stream into potentially multiple income streams. And I can tell you right now, I'll give you a tip right now. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. What are you interested in? What are you passionate about? Chances are, and I'll be in that masterclass, I'll be giving some very specific advice, but chances are you already have enough knowledge or expertise to create a business out of whatever your current hobby or your current interest is. But people overthink this all the time. And I shared a story, by the way, that masterclass is limited, just to give you a heads up. I mean, it's a mini class, it's a 2-hour class. It's limited. I think there's only like 30 something slots left. We're limited to 100 people. If you want to hop in that class, I'll tell you how you can get into it here in a moment. But let me give you an example of a gentleman who I first saw, thought, man, that was so simple that I would have missed it. Before I started into business, I was about 21, 22 years old. Before I ever started a business, I told you I became an entrepreneur at 23. But before then, I was looking at various businesses to start, and I too was overcomplicating it. And I bumped into this young gentleman in town, didn't know him, total stranger, bumped into him in a parking lot, made small talk with him, and he mentioned that he owned a small business. And I said, how old are you? At the time, he wasn't even 18, he was 17. And I said, what kind of business do you own? I own a jewelry business. Okay. And to be very clear, he was a little bit like, it was almost like he was bragging, he was proud of himself. And I found out later he probably should have been proud of himself. What kind of business do you own? I sell jewelry. What kind of jewelry? Well, it's costume jewelry. And in my head, I kind of laughed at that, like, okay, you sell fake jewelry, like, okay. And he said, yeah, you should swing by this flea market in town on the weekends. You'll see me there. Well, I said, maybe I will. Lo and behold, I think it was that weekend, I ended up going by the flea market, just curious if he was there. Was he blowing smoke? What was it? So I go in there and I see he's got this card table with this fake piece of purple velvet on it, velvet, if I can speak, and this purple velvet laying on it. And he had all these like necklaces and charms and bracelets, gold and silver. Of course, they were all fake. And I'm watching him and people are buying them. They're not paying a lot of money. Of course, it's fake jewelry. They're paying like $10 for this chain. I remember chains were $12. Charms were like $10. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then he had bracelets, and I forget what those sold for. And I as soon as he sees me, we introduce ourselves to each other. We remembered seeing each other. And I sit down, and he asked me to sit down. I'm watching what's happening here, and I'm thinking, okay, but I don't know if he's making any money. So when everything died down a little bit, I said, his name was Jeffrey. I said, Jeffrey, how much money are you making? And he goes, reach over there in that cooler. He said, reach over there in that cooler and grab out a bag of chains. Well, you see, he had each one of the chains laid out in each different style, and he had gold and silver, and there's probably 6 or 7 different styles and gold and silver in each one. And he said, when reaching that cooler and grabbed the bag, when I grabbed the bag, it was like a bag of all one set type of chain, right? All gold chain in a specific style, or all the silver chains in a specific style. Mind you, all costume jewelry. And there's this little plastic bag. And I was like, and he said, pick up that bag. And I said, okay. And he said, that bag cost me $12, the whole bag. And the bag might have had, I don't know, it was a lot, maybe 10, 15, 20 different necklaces in it. But he was selling each individual necklace for $12. And then we had some more customers show up and I watched them. I sat there for probably 2 or 3 hours. And we had another break and I was getting ready to leave. And I said, can I ask you how much money you make doing this? Because I could see, like, even if there was 10 in a bag, he's making a significant profit margin every single time someone's buying them. And people were buying them pretty regularly. Kids, teenagers, even some adults, everyone. People would come back and buy another charm for their necklace. And I said, can I ask you how much you're making? And he said, I clear, now this is, 20 years ago, but he goes, I clear about $800 to $1,200 a weekend. And I work Saturday and Sunday. I said, do you work every weekend? Yes. So he's doing between $4,000 to $5,000 a month. He said, I make more money than my parents make working full time. So many times we're like, well, what can I do to make extra income? This guy's working basically 8 days a month and he's making more money than his parents are making in a month back then, 20 years ago. And it blew my mind. And I thought, this is so simple. Here I am trying to figure out how to start a business. And what he's doing is just so simple. And I realized I'm overthinking this thing. So the success tip for this week is don't overthink it. And let me say this. If you want to, like when you're trying to learn something, a lot of times people will say, I want to learn how to start a business. Okay, first of all, if you figure out what kind of business you want to start, then don't get caught up in the weeds. Oh, I need a website. Well, do you have a business yet? Is your business making any money? Do you have any customers? You might not need a website. A lot of people think you need a website first. A website can cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. You might not need a website right away. That might not be necessary. And the worst part is when you think, okay, I need a website. I can't afford for someone else to make a website for me, so let me go learn. And now you're learning how to create websites. And you're learning all about WordPress and, templates for WordPress and all these other hosting platforms for your website. You're learning how to get a domain name. All this stuff you're trying to learn how to do, but yet you haven't even got a business started yet. So one of the common things that people make a mistake in business as far as not keeping it simple is they start learning too soon. Similar to my real estate example. You only need to learn the next most important thing in your business. Don't spend your time trying to learn or prepare or prep something that has not even happened yet. Just think about, what is my next thing? That's why when we have First Steps to Success seminars, they're called First Steps to Success. Always focus on the very first steps. So in our mini class, how to create a multiple streams of income by turning your passion into profits, or I could have named it your interest into income. We're going to be focusing on what's the very first thing you need to focus on. What do you need to focus on next? And help you really create a plan so you can start producing an additional income stream. And then I'm going to show you how you can leverage that one income stream to multiple more income streams. If you want to get access to that training, imagine being able to start a business in the next, 30 days after that mini class. What if you could start a business, and what if you could make $1,000 or $500 a month by what you learned in that mini class? What if? And what if that mini class cost you $250? Would it be worth it? Of course. Now, I don't know, you'll need to reach out to the office or they'll put a link underneath this video, but the mini class only has a maximum of 100 people allowed in. The price is not $250. Obviously, that would be worth it. The price for that mini class, 2-hour mini class, is going to be $79. And if you want to take my mini class, and Carmen O'Quinn also has a mini class. Her mini class is about living a limitless life, being able to be productive, being able to have a fulfilled career, a fulfilled marriage, be able to feel fulfilled as a parent, and being able to have balance in your life at the same time. How to Live a Limitless Life is the name of her mini class. 2-hour mini class as well. If you want to take one of the mini classes, it's $79. That's nothing. But if you want to do both of them, You can do both of the mini classes for $97. Now, I'm not sure. I think she had a few more people in the Limitless class. I'm not sure. You have to go call the office. But if there's a link below, you should be below this video, you should be able to get access to both of them. If you don't see the link for any reason at all, be sure to call the office. Say, I want to get into that mini class that Jackie's doing, or I want to get into the mini class that Jackie and Carmen's doing. Focus on learning your next thing. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. We complicate success. I'm Jackie O'Quinn. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. Hopefully you've gained something out of this. Let me know in the comments. I read the comments. I don't always get a chance to respond, but I promise I read all the comments. Let me know what was your biggest takeaway this evening. Have a great night. God bless.